Hi, and welcome to Pitch to Screen. In this video, we'll talk about how to create a parallax effect, separate layers in Photoshop, and animate a 3D camera in After Effects. I'll start with the foreground image in Photoshop. Use the Quick Selection tool to isolate the foreground. I'll drag to make a selection, hold the Command and plus keys to zoom in, and the spacebar to move the screen. Next, I'll click Select and Mask. Use the Refine Edge brush tool to refine my selection. I can also make a few refinements and then click OK. Now all I need is to click on Add a Layer Mask and save the document as a PSD file. Now let's work on the background layer. I'll use the Clone Stamp tool to remove parts of the image, then zoom in and move the screen to where I want to start. Hold the Option key and click to target a texture. Then click and drag my cursor to start cloning. I'll save the document as a PSD file and switch over to After Effects. I started a new project and imported the two Photoshop files. First, I'll start a new composition and select an HD preset. Then change the view from horizontal to vertical by switching the width and height numbers. Change the duration of my timeline to 5 seconds. I'll call the composition Main Comp and then hit OK. I'll fit my composition to the window, drag and drop the background and foreground layers to the composition, and reposition them. To be able to see those two layers in a 3D space, I need to turn them into 3D layers by adding cubes to the Layers options. Next, I'll add a camera by going to the Menu, Layer, New, Camera. Select the 35mm preset, then hit OK. I'll switch from Active Camera to Custom View 1 to see the layers in a 3D space. To separate the foreground and background layers in space, I'll select the background layer and drag the Z-axis. I'll switch back to the active camera, select the background layer to scale it up, hit the S key for scale, and drag. I can also scale the foreground layer to adjust my composition. To create more depth in the scene, I'll go to the camera options, turn on the depth of field, and drag to increase the aperture and create a shallow depth of field. This can make the composition more interesting and believable. To animate a camera movement, I'll open the Camera Transform options. Make sure the playhead is at the beginning of the timeline, click on the point of interest and position stopwatches to toggle animation. This will create the first keyframes. Move the playhead to where I want to end the animation and use the camera tools in the toolbar to make the changes. This will create the second keyframes. Drag the playhead to preview the animation. To make sure the focus stays on the foreground layer when the camera moves, I'll hold the Command key, select the camera and foreground layers, go to the menu and click Layer, Camera, and choose Link Focus Distance to Layer. To animate the foreground layer, I can use the Puppet Pin tool. After making sure the playhead is at the beginning of the timeline, I'll click to create anchor points on the foreground layer. Move the playhead to the end of the timeline and slightly move those points. This can create a slow motion effect. Adding effects can make the scene more interesting, such as adding a tint effect to the background layer and animating the amount of tint over time. I can also add a light leak effect by importing and blending elements into the scene. And this was how to create a parallax effect, separate layers in Photoshop, and animate a 3D camera in After Effects. For more in-depth training, please check out our online courses. To watch more videos, please make sure to follow and subscribe. Thanks for watching.